Hello, welcome back. So for today, we're going to have some testing or playing around with the idea of optical flow. So the purpose of using optical flow is to enhance our experience of interaction design such that you can make use of the very simple webcam for some interaction that provided that you may not have Kinect or other the machine learning tools that for you to do some kind of tracking. So the optical flow is one thing that you can make use of in your simple exercise. So as usual, we start with this video device in, and then there are two optical flow you can find from your TouchDesigner. One is the TOP, where you can find it from top optical flow here. But for those who don't have the latest NVIDIA graphic card, or your computer is not Windows, probably it's not possible to use this one. And the other one you can find is from the palette browser here in the tools that you can find from the optical flow. So I have used it in the demonstration of particles GPU to, for example, use your body to control the wind that you affect the flow of the particles. But for today, we'll try to see how we can make use of this one. And if you would like to understand what optical flow is, you can actually first find from your TouchDesigner help page. But as a matter of fact, I found it not too comprehensive in a sense that it doesn't have too much information. And for OpenCV, you can also find quite a number of discussions about different types of optical flow, the dense one, the sparse one. And then the reason of using this is we try to make sense of how the object in front of the camera moves by comparing different frames, and then to identify the similar color moving from one location to another that you estimate, for example, how this car is moving in front of the camera. And the one we're using at this moment is pretty simple. We're just trying to see the how the image move in front of the camera by taking some ideas about how great the magnitude of movement and also the direction of the pixel flowing in front of the camera. So the first thing we need to connect is here. And the parameter you can leave it as it is for the default first. And the result of this one will be on top that you can connect to now to have a look. And if you zoom in, actually you can see what happened in front of the camera. Actually, if you move around, you will see some kind of silhouette of your image in this empty node. And you can also have more information about that one by using the middle mouse button. It's come with 32-bit RGBA. And if you would like to check the individual pixel, you can make the viewer active and then right click to display the pixel value. And you can see the pixel value moving if I'm moving my body in front of the camera. And you can also note that the only red and green color channel has value. The rest is 0 and 1 for the blue and alpha, and the value is actually quite small, and it also comes with negative and positive. So the decoding of those information is the red color channel actually register the left and right movement of the pixel, and move towards the left hand side will be negative and then right hand side positive. and then up and down will be the G channel, so there's the green channel for the vertical movement. And how we are going to make use of this one, we can create three-dimensional graphics and with geometry instancing, and then we can identify how the pixel move as we capture from this optical flow. And the other thing we can simplify is we do not need to have the full resolution. So that one come with the 1280 and 720 is the resolution of the camera. If you would like to, you can take a very small resolution for demonstration. So for this one, I would like to make few constant chop. So the first one will be like the height and the width of the screen we have. Then we're going to use it for calculation later. So the mass will be a division. We're going to use this particular factor for the aspect ratio calculation. And then the other constant I would like to use is the resolution of this one, and in order to reduce it to a much smaller value, so the number of rows and number of columns. So the number of rows I'm going to use just around 18, and the number of columns is 32 in the ratio of 16 by 9. That kind of fit into this particular value. Okay, so with this one I can drag the rows and column here such that this one will be very low res, but keeping the flow information in with less details. Okay, and the next step is we would like to visualize how the flow similar to the arrows that we would like to find it out from the comparison of the frames. So what we are going to do is go back here, and then we try to visualize it in terms of some 3D graphics. So I'm using a circle and then transform to make it really small. And I'll explain a little bit about this one later, because we're going to do instancing, and then with the geometry, and then camera, and then light for the 3D environment with the rendered top. So for the camera, I'm not using 3D at this moment. I would just use parallel projection with width of one unit that fit into the 2D graphics that I would like to use. And then the next one is I try to turn on the instancing. And then how many of the circle I want to have is the same number here, 18 row by 32 columns. So I'm going to use a grid here, and then the number of rows and columns same as here, and then column. And also I need to take care of the aspect ratio where the calculation here come from, so that I need the width is the longer dimension is 1, and the shorter dimension height is this ratio. So now you have this 16 by 9 grid with the same number of rows and columns as the flow around here. So what we're going to do is to give it a name. So I will use a null here, and that one will be translated. Or you can use position to indicate you would like to distribute all the instances with the location information from the grid. And I noticed some of the demonstration they may want to convert it into chop first, but you can also use the SOP directly by dragging it here. And then translate X will be P0, translate Y will be P1, translate Z probably not used here, but just put it P2. And then the arrangement will be, where's the output? Yes. So you have all the circles around here is still too big. So in this case, the uniform scale come in handy to make them altogether smaller. Okay, so my idea is to visualize the optical flow information by using the circle. So the more movement you have in front of the camera, the bigger the circle, and then the statics area will have a smaller circle. And then the second step, we're going to transform a circle into a pointer, and then you can use the direction of the pointer to indicate the direction of the flow. Okay, so the next step is we try to get information out from this optical flow low-res top. So we are going to convert it to chop. And we only use 2 channels, so we just remove the blue and alpha. And then for the crop, we need to have the full image. And at the same time, we combine it into just 2 channels, red and green. So if you move, actually you can see the movement of those data in the channel, and this comes with 576 samples. Okay, so you can also rename it to a proper name as X and Y. And then given the X and Y, so you have negative and positive number. And in order to calculate the magnitude, so we take the Pythagorean theorem that you can have the square of both X and Y using a mass, and then you combine the channel by adding them together in one single value, and then you take a function to do the square root, which will give you something called the magnitude. If you want to have the correct name, you can rename it as, sometimes we may use R, which is like the radius of a circle. So you can see the always be positive. So for this number, if you want to fine tune, you can insert a mass here such that you may, for example, multiply it by 2 or 3 depending on the size you want to have. So this one I can also rename it to indicate this is the magnitude of the flow elements. So in that case, this will go to the scale. And since we have only the 2D circle, so we only scale it in X and Y dimension. So now we complete the project more or less. So you're going to see something like this one. So the area that I'm moving actually create a bigger circle, and if I do not move, actually you see very tiny circle. Okay, so that is the first step. The second step you would like to do, maybe you can combine your video as a background. So in order to highlight the circle, I can dim the video. So I use a channel mix to change it to a darker color, and then I try to have a composite that we have used plenty of occasion, that send it back to our output window with the under. So now your circle should be on top of your video. So that is how it look like. So for the size of the circle, and you consider this not too big, so you can modify here in the mask, for example, if you want it bigger. So you can have 3. So the movement you will see a little bit more obvious. So you can notice the more faster the movement, that means the discrepancy in terms of distance of the same pixel across multiple frames will be larger, so that will create a bigger circle. So that is how the first version end up with. And to have the directional information, we can still make use of this X and Y. And I did similar thing in the media pipe about the finger orientation. So if you would like to have the diagram, you can just search some of the math websites in the understanding of what tangent and arctangent are. So we're going to use arctangent, so that means we are given the 2 dimension, x horizontal, that's the base, y, that's the vertical one, perpendicular. And then we already calculate this hypotenuse, that is the magnitude, by using the Pythagorean theorems. And then the last thing, we're going to calculate this angle theta. So the tangent of this angle will be y over x. So now we have y and x. We can do an arctangent to return this angle. So we can go back to here. So now we have y and x. So we're going to select them one by one. So this one I choose only y. This one I choose only x. So now we have y and x. Again, we can have the function where you can have plenty of options that you can find. So the one I'm using will be arctangent, that come with 2 versions. One is 1 input, 2 is multiple input. So we choose the second one with the first input y dimension, and the second input is x dimension. So it will give you the measurement in degree. And then I also need to add a mask here, because the calculation is reverse the order, so I need to add 180 degree in order to make it correct in terms of the direction. So the final one I also have a rename it to angle or rotation, that depending on your pattern. So that one is a rotation. So the rotation will go to here. Then you can drag it here. Since this is in 2D, so the rotating in this direction will be Z. So we choose the rotate Z. But there's also another thing you need to customize, because we have a circle. So rotating a circle in Z dimension has no effect at all. So we're going to change it into a triangle by reducing the number of divisions to just 3. And then we can also further shorten the triangle to make it a little bit shorter by reducing the Y scale. So it will turn the triangle into something like pointer. So we can go back to our perform mode. So now you can see the action. Since the triangle is smaller, that you can also enhance it to make it bigger. So the result will be something like this. If I move towards my left hand side, you'll see this triangle pointing here, this direction pointing to here, and then up and down. You can also rotate. In that case, you can see the rotation of my palms and finger. And if you want to play, you can also see zoom in and out, because it's just 2 dimensions without the depth information. But as you move in and out, you grow bigger and smaller. That the triangle actually indicate the growing and shrinking size of your body. So that is how you play around with this one. And the final version, that if you want to further enhance the color of the triangle, so that you can also make use of the color of the original video image from here. You can add another resolution to have a smaller version of your original video, and then you're going to change the resolution according to the chart that we have, that rows and columns. So you have this for the Y, this for the X, and then now this one is much smaller, and then you can add a node for this one and rename it add color. And if you want to see the color information, you can, in the viewer, you can choose nearest pixel. That you might see something like this, which is an extremely low res version of your original video. And then this color, you can add it back to your geometry instance in the second tab with the color here. Drag it here, and then you choose the R, G, and B. You will skip the A because it's always 1 in the alpha channel. So now you have a little bit more fun with your arrows, so they come with different colors according to your background or foreground information depending on where your movement is. So that is something you can use it for later interaction design that I'll show you some example. And then if you would like to have a little bit more fun, you can always add feedback to your triangles. And very likely you don't want to have too much of them, and then your result will go back to the composite. So now you have the motion track of your triangle that you can see clearly between frames, so where your movement is. So that is the thing that you can play around with optical flow in TouchDesigner. So there are also other examples, probably I can show you later, that if you use optical flow with the displays top, you can easily create some kind of pixel sorting effect by your movement. That I can show you some example that you can create, like Francis Bacon like painting by using those movements. And the other thing that you can work with optical flow is I can show you some video I did many years ago. So that is one thing that I did in processing and probably 20 years ago. And then you can use optical flow to interact with some virtual object by moving around them, rotate them in order to create some virtual interface that you can play around with. So you can also add the physics that you can have the ball playing around in your screen, but with just your motion in front of the camera to create this kind of interaction. So that is something that we can play around with in TouchDesigner later. So that is how we can play with optical flow. So in the next tutorial I can also show you some other thing we can play with optical flow and in the areas of interaction design. So until then, happy coding.